it's great to see you, Claudine.
Great to see you as well.
So I had the pleasure of talking to Claudine, obviously in preparation for today. And a couple things that I discovered was that she's an incredible transformational leader. And
Well, I don't know about that. Let's
Okay.
just be clear.
Well, she's got a very good, solid background for that, and is implementing it in a company that is in the process of really not just transforming itself, but really has a vision to transform the entire practice of medicine. So with that, she's also, by the way, in the top 100 top women in marketing. So, yeah.
Thank you.
So, where I wanted to start, Claudine, is just, your background, Kellogg's, Post, a lot of CPG, also consumer health, and then, you made the next leap into Sanofi, which it's debatable whether it's Sanofi or Sanofi.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, call it whatever you want.
That's right. So, so tell us about sort of what in your background really prepared you for the role, and how you took the leap.
So when I asked Sarah what the topic was going to be today about, because I didn't know it until like probably 10, 15 minutes ago. So it's everything around transformation, so I'm just going to wing it and roll with the punches. So Q&A, please don't ask me anything difficult. But, well, I think nothing really prepares you for the idea of transformation, whether or not it's capabilities, talent, industry, right? I really didn't even know what I love to do, because marketing is such a big topic, till I want to say probably 4 or 5 years ago, when we had to bring a consumer health organization through change when I was at Reckitt. And I realized I learned a lot of what may not always be the right things to do. And through that, I realized, hey, this is what I love. But maybe the next time I do it, I could do it without leaving a lot of dead bodies behind. And so we had a second chance. At that time, I was part of the organization, but I didn't have the opportunity to create as much impact as I do now. And I think a few things, right? One is resilience, for sure. I think if I take a step back, for any transformation exercise that you have to do, you have to be comfortable with change and have to have the appetite and resiliency to do that, because it's very easy to give up. And then the other piece I realized, and I've been talking to some of my friends that's not in the industry, it's a lonely journey, because not a lot of people understand your intent, and there's a lot of questions and doubts and actually mistrust, right? So I would say the resiliency takes you through a lot of that. And then the second piece is naturally, you don't have to have the depth of experience in everything, but enough to be dangerous, and then lean in on the good people that you believe can help you see through the change. So I've learned through this that you're always never prepared. Sometimes the industry moves so fast that you yourself are trying to catch up, but if you surround yourselves with like-minded individuals that have the depth of experience, it's easy then for you guys to go through the journey together. Those are actually, I think, lessons that I've learned through transformation that has prepared me, because every transformation exercise is different. It calls for different, attitudes, different mindset, different approaches, and different capabilities, I think.
It's great. So you've been at Sanofi about 9 months now, right?
Yeah, I think
So walk us through a little bit about what your remit really is when you came in, and sort of how you've conducted the process so far.
So I've been in the industry for 25 years now, 26, I've lost count. But when I first started, I feel like it was so much easier to be in corporate America, to be in CPG. And then all of a sudden, like, every company goes through changes 2 or 3 times a year. So I think the one thing that, in terms of remit, when I was brought in to do was, I got really excited when I hear about transformation and change, and I just run towards it, sometimes blindly. And not every company is committed to that. They'll tell you, I'm here for transformation change. I want to drive modern marketing capabilities, all that jazz. But when you go in, you're like, wait a minute, I don't know, you know? What I loved about when I came into Sanofi, everybody all the way up to the CEO believes in the idea of change in service of growth and impact, right? And when you hear those words, you know, regardless of what you do, you're going to be in service of the business. You're going to drive growth of some kind, you know, however you go along for the ride. And so when I came in, that was what I was excited to sign up for. Didn't realize the massive lift, just because I feel like if you're from CPG or even some of these direct-to-consumer brands, it's a lot, you've seen change 2-3 times. Consumer health, not so much. I feel like consumer health, Haleon, Kenvue, companies like that are just starting to try to figure out what they want to do, like us, you know. So I think we're all in the journey together. Nobody has figured out the magic formula. We're buying share, right, through a lot of more tactical promotional activity versus brand building or true brand building. So I think with that, we're actually at the beginning of what we believe we can do to drive change through the efforts of marketing and marketing capabilities.
I'm so glad that you mentioned the leadership too at your company, because if you just start digging around a little bit, there's a really wonderful quote from your CEO that talks about the change and the mission that the company is on, and then he added at the end, it may not work. And because nobody's ever done this before. And I just felt like what a fantastic leader to be following, because to recognize that, like, look, this is uncharted territory, and we're going to blaze the trail. It might actually fail. And so talk a little bit about sort of that, having a leader like that, and also maybe sort of talk a little bit about the vision that is the mission of the company now.
Yeah, and I would say the company's split in two parts, right? There's the pharma business, and we're consumer health, so we're trying to emulate or get inspiration from CPG, which moves a lot faster. I think that idea is true, and because we're in the foray, we haven't made a lot of, I would say, because I'm being so new, I haven't really seen a lot of the change and transformation making mistakes in the process. I would say it really depends on the culture. I remember when I was working in Coke as a senior brand manager 23 years ago now. My boss was actually now the CMO of, I'm giving him a shout out, of Coca-Cola North America. He's like, he and I had a big argument, I remember, in his room. And I'm like, you know what? I am still going to do it no matter what you say, because I believe this is going to work. I did all the due diligence and all the data. And he's like, okay. And then naturally, whatever I did sucked, right? It was miserable. Didn't create impact, didn't drive growth for the business, wasted a lot of money. But he has, he's always told me, and he brought it up as an example, that, you know what? I applaud you for trying. Because if we don't try, we wouldn't know. And now it's a lesson in terms of how you can do things better, right? And I think Ed Sheeran said the same thing about failures recently too, right? Something around, you can fail 1,000 times to learn. So regardless, I do believe that philosophy is true. I just think we don't take risk as much. I always challenge my team, because I'm like, we're paid decent amount of money to make decisions, right? And sometimes we test and learn our way to, and we spend so much money when we can just probably take 10 minutes to lean in. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't cost us that much. So I believe in that philosophy of sometimes leaning into your gut versus just spending so much money testing and probably getting to the same result.
Yeah. That's great. I literally was talking about this like 2 weeks ago, that I had a boss. I worked at the Wall Street Journal for about 10 years, and I had a boss there that when you came to him with like passion,
yeah,
even when he knew it was going to go wrong, he would let me do it. And sometimes it worked and sometimes it didn't. But
yeah,
it was the ability to take that risk and go and learn for myself, because otherwise you just cut off passion, and it's...
that's the beauty about marketing. There's nothing you can do that will drastically, significantly,
Right.
you know, make mistakes that you can't rectify.
Yeah, that's great. It's great. So talk a little bit about sort of in the weeds of the actual transformation of your team and sort of the process that you've going through with, kind of implementing change.
It's tough. I haven't figured out the formula yet. I'm still trying. I think no matter how passionate you are and how much ability you give, your teams and the people you work with to run and sometimes even fly, it's hard for people to trust or to understand if that's even possible. And so I would say the biggest component of change is people and culture, right? And that takes a long time to move through. And the one thing I've noticed though is you have to operate with authenticity and a certain openness that you probably wouldn't even probably think to do. So meaning, I always go with honest conversations with people first because that's how you build trust. And you have to understand that not everybody is going to buy into the change and transformation journey with you. So it's okay. You have to listen to all kinds of feedback, good and bad. But I think people and culture is probably the most difficult part of the change because there are just folks that won't come along with you for the journey. And no matter how exciting the idea sounds, when you go home every night, I'm like, oh my God, I'm so exhausted. The point about loneliness, I'm like, I feel like I need to call someone or drink, but who do I call and what do I drink? And it's the same cycle every day, right? So that's one. But when you find the right people and you find a few, have them lead by example. So I found a few folks in my team that I think could embrace the challenger mindset, could look at what competitors are doing and try and experiment with a different playbook. And so I've been leaning in on some of these guys to showcase what that could look like. And the more you galvanize, it becomes infectious, right? So I think people is probably most important to that. And then second thing is capabilities. I think consumer health industry, we're very slow. We're probably we still talk TV centricity when we should be talking video platforms, social proofing, AI. And so it's embedded in talent in pockets and silos, but now it's almost how do you lean in and start to build those capabilities from scratch. So capabilities, people, and then the growth-oriented mindset too, where we are not the number 1, 2, or number 3. I think there's a lot of beauty to that. So how do you move from number 6 to being on the podium? Nobody's going to pay attention, right? And so now's the time to try and fail and see if you can succeed.
That's great. Is there anything that you have sort of come across or learned along the way that sort of identifies those people that are really like sort of going to be? When you and I spoke, we were talking about the bus. Like, this is the bus. There isn't another bus coming. So either get on the bus and then finding those people who, if you keel over driving the bus, they're going to take the wheel. And anything like that's sort of magical about finding those people?
It's easy to spot because when an organization goes through change, there's no direction, not a lot of direction, not a lot of, you have to build the end in mind. There's a lot of running towards, not sure what. And those, you see people that step up to go like, it's okay, I'm going to try, and I'm going to bring my team along and figure it out. But there's almost a lot that's saying, I have a hard time, And I think I don't know, because I moved to, I worked in Minneapolis for a while, and I hope I'm not offending anybody, but there's this whole idea of Minneapolis nice. Oh, I hated it. I'm like, I'm like, do you like me? Do you not? Are you telling me that you like this idea? No, I couldn't tell. And that's why I was so excited coming back to the East Coast. I'm like, yeah, this is really real, you know? But not always the case too, you know? I find that I have to go through the kind of the cycle of talking to people and having to sugarcoat stuff just because folks would be offended or, you know, especially those that are a little bit more resistant to change. But I don't know how to operate any other way but to be transparent and honest. And then if you're not on the bus, to your point, let's have that conversation, and maybe this may not be the right role for you, you know, but we need to acknowledge that early so we can help you to figure out then what's right. Those are it's just really tough and just like terrible, murky waters to just walk through, you know?
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the transformation that's happening across the industry. I feel like every 6 months we could be referring to a different transformation in our industry.
Yeah, CPG especially, I find. And now even a lot of direct-to-consumer companies.
Yeah, I feel like we're all in it, whether it's, you know, we want to talk about cookieless or AI or, you know, the future is a little uncertain and exciting, depending on, you know, which side of the fence you're on. But talk to us a little bit about how that's affecting your marketing strategy and perhaps the way that you see consumers.
Everything starts with the consumer, and I think sometimes we forget, right? Like, what's the single number one or number two consumer jobs to do? We tend to always go straight to tactics, and you know, and well, I think that helps. It's very short-term focused. So it's almost rewiring and re-engineering. Once again, I think consumer health is a little bit behind, to be honest with you. I've seen CPG companies where all they talk about is demand spaces, consumer centricity, you know, what are the 1-2 things that that we need to do for the consumer and working with the customers to do that. A lot of these conversations, I was surprised, it's kind of new to us. So it's almost, while you want to build marketing capabilities that are first in class, that are exciting and modern, you also need to figure out the foundations that you need to help the team set to be able to get there. So there's multiple things that we're working on right now to deliver against that. I mean, I'm doing consumption forecasting, which may not be sexy to some, but I love it, you know, all the way to how do you think about generative AI and, you know, bringing into, so we're doing some tests and learns with Nigel, putting a plug here, but Nigel and our brand Zizal, which is an LG brand. We're trying to work through some tests and learns too. So we're trying to do a little bit of experiments here and there, but ultimately trying to formulate what the right strategies are that delivers, again, consumer needs, blind spots we're not thinking about, and then white spaces that could bring more consumers into our portfolio.
Got it.
So reassessing everything, I would say.
Yeah, no, it's great. And so fast forward, I don't know what the right timeline is for you, but maybe a year, 18 months, maybe?
Yeah, it's slow for me.
Okay, 2 years.
I was talking to someone the other day, and I wanted to do this project. I'm like, yeah, hashtag Bombay Speed, you know, because this guy was saying, the creative, someone from one of the creative teams in our agency was saying, I want to do a project. I just wanted to throw shit on the wall. And I was like, yeah, let's throw shit on the wall together. I'll buy you a tequila. You make it happen for me. So we built this great program to launch a new brand within 5 months into the market. And I thought that was amazing. But then, you know, obstacles after obstacles after obstacles. And initially it was called hashtag Bombay Speed, because he was like, New Yorkers, they don't know what speed is, you know, until they come to Bombay. Now I'm like, I don't think it's Bombay Speed anymore. So like ideally, I think fast forward is a year. I would have ideally liked to make more progress, to be honest, within 6 months. But yeah.
All I know for sure is I want to be on your bus. It has tequila on it.
Yes, I will bribe anybody with tequila if you have an exciting project that I could work on or lean in on.
And you weren't even here when the other woman had, offered mayonnaise. So I feel like we're upgrading all the time here. So I want to open it up to questions from the audience. I'll give you a minute to think of them and have a microphone. There you go.
Hi, Kristen from Cargo. So question, you talked a lot about transformation. You talked about becoming, coming into Sanofi, new CMO in this role. I'd love to hear you talk a little bit more about when you come in, you talked about people and culture, how you establish trust as a leader. Because in order to, we all talk about failing fast. I feel like it's the word for the last 2 years. But how do you get that trust in order to allow people to do that? Because I think that's, as a leader, I find the toughest.
And you don't always, right? Because when you come in and you have to drive change, obviously there would be some restructure. And so I think that sets you back from a trust perspective because by restructuring your teams and organization, there will be people that will be impacted. It's how you treat those people and what you do with them and for them afterwards. So for example, we went through a change in July. Some of the folks that I'm still in touch with, I'm trying to figure out how do I help them with opportunities. I was also very candid and upfront in terms of why some of the things happened because it happened, right? And so I think it's hard because change will set you back, but the way you operate, and you need to operate with authenticity, and I always believe that you need to be kind and not nice. I think that helps a lot because people see that there's no BS behind what you're trying to do. Once again, I think candor is super important as part of the process, but I think that helps. And then backing them up when things go south, right? Because once again, with a lot of uncertainty, people make mistakes. But you need to be vocal and stand up for what you believe is right and values that you and the team should live by through the process. So the ultimate thing, if I take a step back, once again, it's always about how you lead and what's your values that's going to drive trust. I've also learned from leaders that leave a lot of dead bodies in the process, right? And that, to me, through experience, you just kind of figure your way into leadership. But it's difficult.
I was told once that trust is a factor of reliability and care. And every time you do what you say you're going to do and you show people that you care, you earn like a molecule of trust. And then at some point, it builds up to like sort of a critical tipping point where you don't have to prove it anymore. And it's just trust. That helped me so much. But we even talked about that when we first chatted. Yeah, it's good. Anybody else?
Yeah.
Discover more white space. You had mentioned seeking more white space. Can you speak to that?
I think there's a lot of work to be done here because, once again, white spaces are founded on building a compass where you can identify where they are, and we have to kind of do that in Sanofi. But absolutely, I mean, white space opportunities when I was in Mondelez, when I was at Coke, right? Health and I remember when I was at Coca-Cola, their health and wellness portfolio wasn't even developed yet, and we step back and look at demand space, look at revenue growth management. Like, some of these things seem so basic, but if you think about who led the way, the CPGs of the world did, and they were the ones that really looked at revenue growth management, right, to drive the right pack assortment, the right assortment. Demand spaces was led by CPG companies with Mondelez and Coke. So we uncovered a white space around health and wellness beverages when I was at Coke, and then we laid out the foundations in terms of what brands would fall under that. Mondelez, Oreo was actually declining double digit when I was there, but we uncovered the white space around snacking and how different markets have different ways of approaching the snacking culture, and that was when Oreo Thins, Oreo wafers, some of those highly incremental success stories for us was developed. So I would say I'm learning from those examples and taking it to consumer healthcare today.
Great. So what are the things now, sort of 10 months in, that you are, you came to because you're really excited about change and transformation, and then it's sort of like, oh, this is bigger, slower kind of thing. So what are the things that are exciting that are on the horizon now for you?
Everything. I mean, I feel like there's so many things that we can take in from just where the industry is evolving to. And I mean, some people are moving so fast that you're like, okay, you learn. I'll learn from you after that, you know? But I think building the marketing tech stack is super exciting because we don't have one that's robust enough today. I think learning from how direct-to-consumer brands have monetized customer or consumer lifetime value, bringing that into consumer health is interesting, and closing the loop, right? We just think about acquisitions, but there's so much more to CRM. So technology is a big one for me. Monetizing consumer lifetime value is another one that's really big for me. Marketing capabilities, you know, just even two points. Education. How do I educate our marketers to think from TV to video platforms, the right content within the right context? And then how do we think omni? Retail media shouldn't be left on the side. It should be part of how you think about creating awareness and planning and building brands. And then some of these new tools, I'd like to be more inventive. So I'm always curious and looking for partners that can help us with, I call it first to market initiatives, where it's in service of brand building, but it's also in service of learning and building a learning culture. So
That's great.
a lot going on, but all exciting
there's
stuff.
Another question over there.
Hi, Claudine. Harry from Pad Squad.
Hi.
Love the energy you have up here with approaching leadership. A question on, especially with the CPG background and infusing it, with a category that has multiple brands in the portfolio, like Allegra and Zysol, how are you approaching growth and making sure that one isn't cannibalizing the other, yet still able to expand and grow market share with audiences?
My two favorite brands. I don't know. 6 months in, I just found out because I was like, you know what? I want to dig into the data. Zysol is 94%. It's almost close to 100% incremental to our Allegra portfolio, which means if you put the power of two together, you're gonna, drive household penetration in meaningful ways, right? So that's one. And I think they're both at different stages of their journey. So within the portfolio prioritization, what's the role of Zysol, and then what's the role of Allegra? And then Zysol is such a fun brand. I'm working with my new hire to really think about how do we bring Nigel to life, and actually taking 1 or 2 lessons from the Mucinex playbook with Mr. Mucus. I mean, so horrible looking, but so cute at the same time. So I'm trying to learn from others as well. How do you build distinctive assets for Zysol, and then for Allegra, is how do you make sure you drive a strong point of difference versus other allergy brands out there? So there's a lot of work to be done, but I think both together, they really can pack a punch and help us sell to the retailers in a much more efficient way. Yeah.
One more.
Hey,
A
Claudine.
couple more.
One question, because I know you serve, there's the HCP side.
Yes.
And then there's direct to consumers. How do they play off of each other? Does one usually inspire the other? Yeah, I know you don't want them to conflict.
No, they should.
Yeah.
Once again, I go back to a lot of these capabilities we're at really infancy right now. We actually just hired a HCP senior marketing manager and just building up that capability within the organization. But it should absolutely be a part of how you do marketing, right? Because especially for consumer healthcare, meaningful science and consumers buy into the science that's easy to understand. So HCPs help communicate the science in a way that's easy to understand. I mean, half the time you don't read labels, half the time, you see ads and it's fleeting. I think when you have conversations with HCP and pharmacists as well in the store, and actually beauty advisors too, they're all part of the HCP key opinion leader ecosystem. So that's a capability we're building, and I think that's really important. And then also using, I guess, Medfluences as a part of that in a unique and distinctive way, because I feel like everybody's been there, done that. How do you do it differently? I don't have the answer, but I'm trying to figure it out. Yeah.
There is one more question over here.
Hey, Claudine. Whoa, very loud. I'm Evan from Team Snap. We help brands engage with our 25 million youth sports families. 2 questions. First is quick. What's your favorite tequila?
I'm actually a champagne drinker. I just find that people I meet love tequila, so I bribe them with things they like,
There.
but I drink champagne.
It's all about the consumer.
I love that. Second, how much are you thinking about, or how important is it for consumers to understand Sanofi, the brand, Sanofi, now I still don't know how to pronounce it, as opposed to all the individual brands? How much time or money are you investing in the overarching brand?
So our ambition is to be a brand-led organization, meaning we want our brands to be front and center, right? I think Sanofi, our big ambition is to make science meaningful and accessible for consumers everywhere. But the true magic is really unlocking the potential in our brand. So I would say that's why we're driving change. It's in service of building loved brands that consumers can engage with. It's hard because I don't believe in consumer pharma there's any one brand, maybe, unless you guys can prove me wrong, that has the strong engagement like an Oreo does or a Coca-Cola. I'm asking you the question now. Does anybody have anything?
Trusted rather than loved.
Yeah, You think so? Yeah, maybe. What do they do that you think is...
They fix your kid. Anything else?
I was telling Sarah if I run out of things to say, I'll just do this.
Yeah.
And, she knows when to stop. But, so far, I haven't done that yet.
Well, this was great. I hope that you got a lot out of it because I just want to come work for you and have tequila on the bus. Yeah. That's great. So thanks so much for doing this.
Thank you.
And you'll be around tomorrow as well.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. So thanks, everybody.
Thank you.